It's the essence of BMX, I would say, is that the first thing that you do when you're a little kid is you try and kick some dirt, into a pile so you can jump it, and then it just goes from there. Risty's opening a BMX shop. It's going to be called Backbone. And I was like, that's so rad because I'm just about to move there.
Canberra was the place to be. But that video was just this whole hour-long display of just some cool shit that went down across Canberra and everywhere.
Yeah, I'd say the toughest decision I've ever had to make.
It's a skill that you've attained and you can't give it up. It's just a drug. It's my therapist. It's my everything.
Welcome back to The Flats. Another huge episode for you today. We've got Zac and Tyson in the house. Two icons of the Canberra BMX world. Tyson is the owner and first founding customer of Backbone, celebrating 20 years and about to put on another edition of the Act Jam right here in Canberra, a BMX event that'll be taking over Braddon. And also great to catch Zac Miner, professional BMX rider and big part of the Canberra scene. And amazing to catch these guys at a busy week building ramps and just getting set for the jam. But let's jump into the episode.
I actually just can't believe that it's finally happening, bringing the Act Jam to the general public. Like, something that I guess Act Jam's been going for a lot of years now, and now it's finally happening where the general public can walk down the street and be like, holy shit, what is going on? So, yeah, exciting.
Yeah, man.
And a busy week, I imagine. You mentioned you were out building today and constructing some of the obstacles for the jam.
Yeah, I will take the tiniest amount of credit with the actual building because I do not know what I'm doing, but there's a crew that does. So my friend Jason, who's actually a badass BMXer, but he has a ramp building company as well, and he's just kind of been coming to the jam every year since 2014, and then 2018 or something, he started being like, oh, dude, I can help build some quarters, and then all of a sudden it's turned into this thing where we're building custom ramps for the street, so it should be good.
And I guess that's kind of one of the unique things about the jam is it is just wild and kind of all these obstacles you don't always see in a park or, on the street. It's kind of this chaotic energy. I've been to a few. I went to the one that was indoors at Epic the year it rained, and just chaos, pure chaos.
Oh, that's sick that you came to the Epic one. That was
such
chaos.
A good show, man. So good, yeah.
Yeah, it's just been, to be honest, man, it's just pretty organic, I would say. Like everyone loves riding BMX, obviously, and then I think BMXers are pretty self-sufficient and just want to see rad stuff happen. So it just organically happens like that, Like I would feel like Zac, for example, he actually helped build the first ramps, I think, for Act Jam in 2015 when we had it down at the West Basin, like the container village, the short-lived container village down by the lake. And you just I'll just build some stuff. I remember
it's pretty raw. I feel like you kind of just come up with random ideas and you spitball these ideas, but just being crafty with timber and stuff like that, you can make things up as you go. But thankfully, Jace has come on board because it's a little bit more organized now to a degree. I think it's a bit more polished and especially because we're going to be in Braddon this time around and the ramps are going to be, like you said, pretty unique and special, but big at the same time. And it's going to sort of be a bit of a showstopper this year, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So what were the origins of it? It came back, did it, from the early days in this 2013 era?
So So the video that you got up right now, this is actually the first one that I decided to bring back with my mate and ex-business partner Riss, who owned Backbone back then. I actually didn't even own Backbone back then. But ActJam actually started in 2001, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah, so it started in 2001 and it was run by the guys who did 2020 BMX magazine, which is an Australian BMX magazine. So there's Zach. So shout out to Matt Holmes and Mike Daly, and also Dan Hunt. So Dan Hunt's like just an OG Canberra BMX legend, and they were running it from 2001 to 2005, and it's actually the reason why I came to Canberra in the first place. So in 2005, I came to ActJam 05, Act 05 or whatever, and had the best time ever and moved here a couple months later. And I think Zach moved, maybe not for ActJam, but the same year. So we moved here, 20 years ago.
Yeah, Canberra had this scene already pretty developed, and they were throwing ActJam on pretty regularly every year. So there was a lot of publicity in magazines and stuff like that. And then us being country kids, there was any excuse to sort of go and travel. So especially when ActJam was on, it was like you put that on the calendar and you made sure you were there, and hundreds of people turn up. But it sort of faded out a little bit towards the end, which we'd already moved here and stuff like that. But I'm not sure what.
Well, I feel like the 2005 ActJam was the last pretty much ActJam that there was.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because it was right at the same time that Backbone opened in 2005, and then ActJam was the last ActJam was 2005, and me I worked at Backbone from pretty much when it opened through to 2013, and I said to Riss, like, we should bring ActJam back, and that was pretty much it. It started off as a pretty small thing, like the video there. I remember at the time there was so many people that had come, but it's sort of evolved like quite a bit from that video, which is pretty crazy.
And so you mentioned that it was a goal to get it to a place where the general public can see it, not just be a for BMXers, but for everyone. Is that kind of the goal this year?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's always been, I obviously love BMX. It's something that's like my entire life, but I have always thought that it would be cool to showcase BMX on BMX's terms. Like, because so many people think of BMX, I guess, especially these days, like there's the Olympics, there's the X Games, but really that's like corporate companies coming in and then showing you what BMX is from their perspective and what makes money and whatnot. But for me, I've just like wanted to see this progression of this jam, and every year I guess myself and people like Zach and other passionate BMXers love it. So it just kind of grows organically with that like passion behind it. And it's just been that I wanted to take that and then showcase it to, the general public. Like I wanted general public to walk past and be like, what is going on here? Like, this is crazy, but have it be exactly what a jam is, like not have it feel like this corporate thing. I want it to feel exactly like what BMX feels like what happened at Epic.
And Zach, you have you ridden at a fair few of these later editions as well?
Not so many, but we sort of end up being the build crew for the last few years. Like there would be just this, you'd work, you'd test the ramps, and then you'd party at night, and then you'd wake up and do the same thing the next day for like 5 days leading into ActJam, and it'd just be this big push, and you'd be just stoked to see everyone else ride it. It was like, like we definitely had a ride, got some laps on these pretty cool spots, but once you start to see the crowd start coming in pretty early too, like you'll have people come in on the Thursday, the Wednesday, pre-anticipating there's all these ramps set up and they're not quite ready and stuff. So it's pretty special once it's all built, because then it's just like free for all, pretty much. Like Ty said, it's a pretty organic, like it doesn't feel like a comp where people can come in, test the ramps, have a flow, get a little bit of practice on it, and then come the day when it's like in display, it's almost like a bigger spectacle because people are warmed up to it, and it's like a bit more of a show as opposed to like people just raw dogging it and jumping on the ramps and getting a little bit loose.
And yeah, it's just a great sort of atmosphere too. Like even besides all the riding, like it's a good vibe, welcoming. Like it's just a great way to see amazing BMX from around the world.
Yeah, man. Like I think that's a big part that I don't know if it's just because of this day and age or whatnot, but the moments in between, like they're almost more special than the riding itself. Like when you went to the one in 2022 that was in Epic, that's something where you probably can't remember the trick, but you can kind of remember the vibe and you can remember the craziness, and maybe there was some bands playing and it was all a bit loose, and there wasn't like, oh, you can go now and it's 30 seconds. It's like everyone's doing their own thing in it, and it feels like there's this vibe in the air. And that's, in my opinion, like the most important part about like running these events. Like you want people to go away and be like, man, that was fucking sick. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what it was. Like it was just, I was in it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you couldn't put it any better. Like I just need to come next year. Like that's how it works,
And I think we took from like, because that's generally what, the sessions used to be like on a Friday night for us. There'd be a whole mob of us that would go down to Western Creek and we'd ride, or wherever it was. There'd be this like massive session, and that's how we felt. And so when we'd sort of throw these jams and act jam and stuff like that, it felt like we were sharing it with the community. And then hence now bigger again, we're in Braddon, and it kind of brings to the forefront like how we enjoy the sport. And it's nothing serious. It's always, pretty loose, bit of fun. The vibe that you talk about, like where you're in it, is what we live, and we want to just give that back a little bit in the community. And it's like, cool, we got this grant now, because it's like, Ben Spoke jumped onto it a couple of years ago, and there was such a turnout. That whole event was like, like people just drinking beers, and there'd be live bands playing, and the vibe was just building each part of the day. So the tricks got gnarlier and the event got kind of cooler, but
I just feel like the vibe and the feeling of actually being somewhere is something that like I'm really conscious of with running an event. Like I want it to feel like you need to be there to really experience it. Like the general gist of things is that you can catch the highlights on Instagram or whatever, but I want people to not even be able to really explain to their friends what they missed out on, but you definitely missed out. Like, and you definitely have to make sure you're there next year. So, and that's what keeps it exciting for everyone involved that organizes it too, because we're not just trying to do the same thing year in year out. Like it'll be 1 year we're down at the West Basin, 1 year we're at the BMX track. We're trying to build these different ramps, and there might be one ramp that is left over, but you won't see it again next year. So you better come to make sure that you see what this year's all about. So
yeah, totally unique every year. Like and that's as much for the riders as it is for the crowd. You got to. What is is it world? People traveling worldwide to get to this event to ride. Yeah. So we got like X Games gold medalists, and we've had crazy. Olympic gold medalists. Yeah, you had Willie there last year.
Willie was I mean, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I just heard Corey Walsh got off the plane as well, so that's pretty sick. Yeah. Dude is Nora Cup, which is like an esteemed award in BMX. He's the number one transition rider of the year. So he's coming again. And this is the thing, it's just, it sounds cliche, but if you build it, they'll come. And I guess if you just build it and keep doing it and keep trying to, you got like a passionate group of crew, standing beside you to help, then sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So
I think, like you said, when you create that vibe too, and the sort of like the limited edition feel of the event too. Like if you missed out, like you'd hear about it on social media, or the BMXers across the world would sort of catch drift of like, it was too late, but next year I'll be there sort of vibe, because it was it's a milestone in the world sort of like events stage for BMX. Like there's literally like people will travel across the globe, and even far from all over Australia as well, that make the effort, because it is such a niche event where it's like Ty said, if you missed out, you're kicking yourself kind of vibe. But and then to have like the some of the best riders like Logan and Willie come, and that just goes to show what the level of like, it's a relaxed essence. It's just so cruisy. People come, hang out. There's no comps these to it. It's just literally just turn up and have a good time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm heaps keen. I'll be there and keen to check it out. It's at my doorstep this year, so I can't really miss it this time.
Yeah.
But
you'll hear it. If you miss it, you'll hear it.
yeah, exactly. No, but I want to get to Backbone a bit later. But you guys, you mentioned like doing these events by BMXs and for BMXs. You guys are two talented BMXers in your own right. So I wanted to ask a bit about your career. We can start with Zach. Watching some of your old parts, the Backbone video too is just epic. Like I had a look through, and yeah, what's it like being a professional BMXer in that kind of golden era of Canberra in the early 2000s?
Yeah, Canberra was the place to be. When we did arrive in 2005, it already had this feel about it that you wanted to be here already, and like there was comps, there was jams, there was dirt scene, there was a bit of everything. And when we moved here, we were already sort of on a tear riding, and sort of at a level of where we were sort of not competitive in the scene, but sort of known each other and everything like that. It was sort of like BMX is like such a community where you knew everybody. This is well before social media and stuff like that, and your riding spoke for itself. So I think when we moved here, it became this like culture in a way. Like it was like Friday night sessions, and it progressed our riding like tenfold. Like we would literally be riding every chance we got, and the parks were new, and the scene was so crazy. Like there was, the biggest skate parks in Australia at that time, and then, to back it up, there's dirt jumps everywhere, there's rails, there's everything. There's this whole mix of whatever rider you wanted to be at the time. It sort of accelerated you because we had the community around us at that time too, where the shop opened and we were riding hard every night, which was like, if you hurt yourself, you want to be back on the bike straight away vibe. And like Canberra's backdrop, but like just made it easy. I feel like that to not only, like, I don't think nothing was intended to be successful about it or anything like that. It was just very organic and the crew just riding with each other. But having the shop sort of just made everything so much more easier for like brands and things like that to notice you, because the scene was already popping off. It was already like everyone was riding, and it was such a community, and like everyone had their own style back then as well. Like it was everyone brought their own flavor to the table. But then brands would see that, and the shop facilitated that to make it easier for either companies to come here or for companies to like sponsor you, and you go where they want to. So it took off for me personally. Like I was so lucky through the shop. They sponsored me first, and then literally got to go on trips up the East Coast and then overseas, and like you couldn't believe it. Like it was literally just the dream, like for us as country kids, like to be able to like, I don't know, when I was in overseas and just to say like BMX got me here. And it's like, I'm so grateful for every brand that helped me along the way, because it fulfilled something for us. But man, the Canberra scene is what accelerated it for sure, like well into those early days.
Yeah, man, I feel like the thing about Canberra, and this is just my thoughts on it over the years, it's just that particular time, Canberra was like small enough to where I feel like they were trying really, everyone could just sort of, they were just DIYing it, you know, like not even just in BMX, but in everything. It was like this country town where if you were into hot rods, then you'd be the one that would be making a hot rod show, or you'd be doing stuff like, you know, like the music scene seemed to be pretty impressive, like in terms of hardcore and metal and stuff like that. Like people would be playing shows at backyards and all sorts of different things, and you could really feel like you're right at this at the precipice of what's happening with the scene, compared to if you're in Melbourne or something like that. There's so much going on that you're not really getting to hang out in that like pinnacle crew that's doing all the stuff. And for like BMX, the example of BMX is that like Riss opened Backbone, we both moved to Canberra, and all of a sudden you're hanging out with like these legendary dudes like Russell Brindley and Michael Puniard and stuff like that who were in like the BMX magazines. They were
Godfathers.
They were on the covers, you know, and then
yeah.
all of a sudden you're sessioning with them, and if you're, you know, if there's going to be a jam, like you're going to it and you're helping, and then all of these things, like you very quickly were able to help influence the culture that was happening in Canberra for BMX. And I just feel like that was a really special and lucky time to be a part of, and that, in my opinion, is what drove like the quote unquote success of a lot of BMX riders in Canberra, because
absolutely,
you know, it was small enough to where we could like these jumps that were in Shomlo, like I was able to get them built. You know, I just feel like that's not something that you can easily do when you're in a big city, whereas in Canberra it just was like the perfect time. So
I think we were sort of like in the element of, we're in the peak of like where we were so hungry at this point when we first moved here, that we're building, as like you would say, building the underground back then was because you would make it, you'd want to do something, so you'd make it happen. Like whether it was to get grants for this sort of thing, that was like Tyson did so much background work to like either like you go to community meetings or whatever it was, or like skate park meetings and design elements and whatever it was, because it was our everyday, and it was, you know, like we were hungry to be involved. And then that shaped a lot of the DIY, the underground culture, because none of that was even there before. There was no trail set up or what. It was people doing the hard yards behind the scenes that were like hungry to be, I don't know, not like even be in the community, but like just to be a part of it so that they could ride it and then say that they were helping that. And then that underground started to take off. And then before you know it, like the Act Jams came back on, and then, you know, like even more DIY trail setups, like people were still just pushing the excuse to go and do more.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that it's just everyone isn't sitting on idle hands, you know, like they just want to make stuff happen that's cool for BMX. And because we live in this, I don't know if it was just a Canberra locale thing or just that you had the right crew with the right mindset, but everyone was just about making it happen, you know, and it was a super special time to be a part of, and super lucky to have moved to Canberra at the right time. I don't know if we were just, you know, shared consciousness and Zach was in Deniliquin and I was in country Victoria, but it worked out. And yeah, Canberra scene definitely popped off.
Well, that's what I mean. I think about where Canberra was already doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we came, because I remember there'd be a few publications that would be like 2020, Rebel Yell, Focal Point, and they'd all sort of do little articles on Canberra, because Canberra was just happening all the time. There was always like, you know, Planet X Games would come here and do like they do work, sort of, you know, elimination qualifiers or whatever for the X Games or whatever. And that was on at Tuggeranong Skate Park well back before then. And you read about it in all these articles, and then you were itching to be immersed in that. So like you'd read the article and they're like, I got to get to Canberra. And then I think it just so happened organically for us.
Yeah,
where we
exactly.
were like, you know, Victoria was great and there was plenty going on, but like Canberra was, you know, always happening in the magazine. So when we moved here, it was just a sort of the golden era kicked off before us. But I think like when we sort of sped that up, and then, you know, like everything after that was, you know, like a building block, because we had photographers here, filmers here, the shop opened, and it just, this domino just kept going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely don't think that we kicked off the era. I just think that being able to move somewhere where there's already this pop and like underground scene, exactly like what you said, like you can't help but want to be a part of getting your hands dirty and making stuff happen, you know? Yeah, it's been crazy.
It's been 20 years later, you know what I mean? Like back then, like we moved 05 and it's been 20 years and there's still, like there's been so many things along the way. I was thinking about driving over here. It was like we did that DIY concrete spot, and then, you know, like that was short-lived, but like there's trails being built time and time again throughout the era of Canberra, and no one in the public knows about them, but it's like this little melting pot in Canberra that know about it, and they ride some of the biggest trails in the world, and you see it on video and you're like, holy shit, and you wouldn't even think to know where that is, but it's here in Canberra, and it's like, because dudes are building the scene.
Yeah,
right?
It's you mentioned earlier about when we were looking at the videos, like the architecture, the bush capital, the you know, the seasonal nature, and that we're kind of a new city in a way. We've got the parks. They were the government were putting in skate parks early on. How much do you think that sort of like location has played a part in the success of Canberra BMX being like not only the riders, but becoming kind of like the capital of BMX in Australia in a way, at least from my perspective, knowing Backbone and seeing what you guys have done? Yeah, what do you think the actual physical place of Canberra has a part in BMX?
I think that you're definitely right in the way that the government, you know, we've been really lucky to see a lot of kick-ass skate parks coming, you know, through the last 30 years, 40 years, I guess, probably with Belco being so old. But and I remember when I was super young, there was this thing called the Skate Park Grind Guide. It was like this little A6 book, and it had like the top 10 skate parks in New South Wales, ACT, and like 5 of them were from Canberra, you know, so that certainly influences you from a really young age to be like, oh, well, obviously I have to get to Canberra because this has got the best parks. But yeah, I just think that maybe as much as there are really good parks here, there's also not everything else potentially to distract you, so that if you are a good bike rider, you're going to want to build trails, you know, so that you're not off doing other stuff. You're like, well, I want to build trails, and then because you're in that proximity from Melbourne and Sydney, maybe it is that people want to travel. That's
interesting. Yeah, Canberra focuses anyone on a specific thing because there's not much else to do in a way.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just a location thing or if it's just the right people that have been here to create this DIY mecca.
Yeah, it's a total mix of everything.
Yeah,
in a big melting pot to make this flashpoint.
I don't know. What do you like?
I think like the little 30-minute mecca that Canberra is makes it so easy to be connected to a lot of things. Where if you're a trail rider or if you're a street rider, even the skate parks, like you're only like best part of 20-minute drive and you're at the best spots.
Yeah.
Like all across Canberra. And I think like, you know, like not only the skate park scene, but like as I've gotten older, being a street rider, like I'll go out and I'll just cruise the city and I can be, you know, in Braddon, and then I can go to Lyneham, and then I can cruise down back to the uni or whatever. And, you know, it's all so accessible. And like, I feel like I get so much out of my weekend because Canberra's so thick with spots everywhere. It's like, you know, like Barcelona's the street mecca, but then I feel like Canberra's got that little bit of an edge to it too, because it's so close to everything, and your spots are literally a ride away, and then there's the next spot just 15 minutes away. Like, it's like Canberra's been this like backdrop for like big rail spots too, because it's built on the hills, and not many places in Australia are like that. Like maybe Brisbane is a little bit like that, Sydney is a little bit, but you got to venture so far to get to those spots if you don't live in those areas, where Canberra's like,
dude, you can cruise the lake and find like 15 different spots. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's a really good point. Actually, I remember first coming to Canberra, and even just the drain system, like just being lucky enough to have kilometers of drains that are perfect banks and all these, you know, fence hops and different
Scuba
things.
Dam. I remember when I moved here in 2005, there was the Australian drought, and we rode Scuba Dam like it was a skate park. And if you've never been there, like the backside of the dam is this massive concrete overflow that's got like these bank pillars at the bottom of it that is essentially like what a skate park looks like on a street setup.
Yeah.
And we've like, you know, like been down there and had sessions before. You never get kicked out, but like because of the drought, it's the only time that it's ever been dry.
And was that cover photo?
Yeah, Zach's got the cover of 2020.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So like,
that's
it's
the one.
literally a skate park. And the
So
only
that's
reason
Scrivener
that's,
Dam.
yeah, and the only reason
Yeah.
that's rideable now is because of that drought. Like if that was now, that'd be an inch full of water.
you know what's funny about that? That's Western Creek too, even though that's Dave Dillaward apparently. Is it? That's what it sort of says. So like, it's just so funny. Like, we've just had so many spots, but yeah, it's crazy. You know, you couldn't have a better city to be able to ride BMX in. I don't think. Like, it's just so easy to get around, and then you have these insane spots all over the joint.
Dude, that's why I've moved away and I've come back so many times. Like, I've gone to Melbourne and I've gone to Brisbane, and the accessibility of Canberra makes it so attractive, because you literally, like, someone's going for a session at Western and you're 5 minutes away. Oh yeah, I'll be there too. But like, you had to make a plan in Melbourne, you had to make a plan in Brisbane, and you had to sort of create the crew. But Canberra's so easy, and it's like, you know, like you're at an arm's length of someone else riding and sessioning and building something, and it's never stopped. Like, I feel like the trails are still going, DIY spots, and then you build Act Jam every year. So there's always something organic happening.
Well, that's the big thing about it too. Like, if you think about the Tuggers riders would always be, you know, riding with the crew from Gungahlin or something like that, because it's so easy. Whereas if you're living in Melbourne, it's not like I'm the Fitzroy Bowl crew and I'm going to go ride with like the dudes from the western suburbs. Like, this is just not going to happen. So Canberra's just been really lucky to have it where everyone comes together and rides. Like, you know, Western Creek Friday night sessions, perfect example of that.
And as much as there was, like, you know, like, there was a fair few of us here in Canberra. It's maybe not the same amount of people as what's in Melbourne, but that small community of Canberra makes it so much more enjoyable that you know everybody, and you like, it only takes one session to meet somebody, and then you know them like forever. You know, like, it's just like these new kids that are now coming up. It's like there's been this sort of regurgitation of like sick dudes just popping up on the scene, and then you mates with them for the rest of your life, because we all live in this little bubble of a community.
Yeah. And a huge part of that is that community is Backbone. I want to talk a little bit about that history there. I believe you were the first customer and almost the first staff member at Backbone in 2005 when it opened.
Yeah.
What was it like as a kid starting and becoming embedded in that shop?
It's like what Zach said with magazines. You know, you wouldn't have this constant update of news like you do now. And there was just this little tidbit of information in 2020. They used to have the state every different state would send in news, and it was just one line. It just said, Risty's opening a BMX shop, and it was in the Canberra section. Risty's opening a BMX shop. It's going to be called Backbone. And I was like, that's so rad because I'm just about to move there. And it's a funny story, actually. I came up here with my mum and my little brother, and I'd broken my wheel or something. I was 18 or something like that, and I saw Riss at the park. And he was like, oh, I've got stuff at my house. Like, come to my house. And me and Mum and my brother drove to his house in Duffy. And he was like, oh, just wait out the front for a second. And I wait. And then he calls me in and he set up like this display in his lounge room of like all the BMX stuff. It was so funny. And he tried to sell me on some 48 spoke wheels, and I didn't want 48 spoke wheels. So anyway, that was why I became the first customer technically the first customer, because he ordered me these wheels that I wanted, and then I picked them up on the day that he opened the shop. Him and I think Brownie and a bunch of other dudes were still painting the front of the shop and whatnot. So I picked them up like the first day, and I guess that's like, rest is history. I started working there a little bit later and kept working there, and then I ended up buying into it, becoming business partners with Riss, and then we've kind of gone our separate ways in terms of the business. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and I just can't believe that it's you start off a young kid from a country town, and at the time BMX shops was like the epitome of what cool BMX was, in my opinion. And there wasn't a lot around, and Riss started it, and he built a scene around it, I personally think. So he doesn't really get the credit he deserves. I think he really he held the Canberra BMX scene on his back for a lot of years, which was super sick.
Yeah, he definitely was the one swinging the axe straight out of the gun. Like, he was literally trying to like make this as cool as it could be for the people in the community, where it was like, like the dudes that would come into the shop, and he's such a larrikin, like, where I feel like he's such a dude that you didn't want to leave the shop either. Like, you could spend hours in there as a BMXer, and you'd just idolize the parts, and you look around, and he made it so easy. And then full credit to you as well, because you both complemented each other, where you were on like the creative website design, because that blew up at that time, 05, and the websites, and having to be visually, connected as well. I think there's that duet that literally couldn't have done the same dance without each other. So it's like literally power to you, because it just, if for a dude that just literally wanted to be in that shop so often, you just created something special where it did, like up until where we went from the Fisher shop to like even across the road, and then out to Belco, it kept growing, and like the scene was just built around Backbone too. Like, because you'd go to, like, for instance, you'd have Friday night Western sessions at Western Street at the skate park there, but you'd start off at the shop and you'd spend hours, and you nearly wouldn't leave. The shop would stay open for an extra half an hour, 40 minutes until you kicked us to the curb, and you'd be gone. But it was a vibe, man.
Yeah, it was a vibe.
And what do you put it down to, the success of Backbone in fostering that sort of community that built around it?
Man, it sounds sort of simple, but the name is the representation of what BMX or what Backbone is. We try as hard as we can be to be the backbone of the BMX scene, So
it's a great name.
Yeah,
and it's become a great brand too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that, I guess by hook or by crook, you'll try your best to to make BMX as sick as it can be. And sometimes Nigel Sylvester, and sometimes and that might not mean the most monetary success, but it can be something that I guess it becomes world revered, I guess you could say, and you have a lot of people that are diehards and a lot of people with backbone tattoos and things like that. So it becomes
bigger than
what
you even created.
You can't. There's nothing. It becomes more than a shop, and I know that it's not a BMX shop anymore. It's more of it's a brand now. But you want something that people can feel like they can get behind and stand behind, and that's what Backbone to me represents. So
it's definitely achieved that in spades, and it was. Were you nervous about leaving Canberra and making that move, but being it so ingrained in the city here?
For sure, man. Like, it was certainly the toughest. Yeah, I'd say the toughest decision I've ever had to make. On one hand, not too many people know this, but it was just a straight up family choice. I'd had a young son, and I, like I said, moved to Canberra, so I didn't have any family up here, and neither did my wife. And we just wanted to be around family. But then the biggest decision that I had to make, and that my wife, because she's just a badass, she totally understood the decision, was just the fact that Backbone and BMX and my other side of my life was all here. So it was a tough decision, but that's why I continue to want to, organize the Act Jam and just be a part of the scene, because I kind of want to prove it to myself that Backbone is not just, a Canberra-based thing. But as well as that, I can still very much help support, the BMX community in Canberra, even though I'm not living in Canberra.
You still haven't forgotten that Canberra is the heart of Act Jam. The words speak for itself too. Like, I feel like you come back and you celebrate Backbone again, even better.
Yeah. It's a big, it's a fun, being able to do Act Jam. Like, it's been my second Act Jam, or this will be my second Act Jam since I've moved, and it's exciting to come and you kind of like live it up. This is the spot where this was born and where Backbone was born, but I still get to celebrate that, and then I go back home to Queensland. So yeah, it's been an interesting one, Nick, but it's been a fun arc to the journey.
Yeah. No, it seems to have not slowed down that community that was built by the fact of just a physical movement. Now that you can be, BMX is much more online in a way. The whole world is. So it kept in touch and is still a big part of the calendar in Canberra. So yeah. But and how's it going? The shop up and the direction you're taking it with into the branding side of things as well.
It's been awesome, just mainly because I wanted to get away from basically the way that the online world has changed. Being a local bike shop, Zach said it perfectly before. People used to come and just hang out, shoot the shit for hours. That was actually why I got a job at Backbone, was because probably wouldn't, I was just bugging wrist on my days.
Never left.
Yeah, on my days off from, going to TAFE or whatever. But it's changed a lot. So people don't go and experience a shop like they did. And I wanted to be able to bring that shop vibe experience to BMXs. And I couldn't do that while I was just an online BMX shop because all of the things that you have to do day to day and whatnot. So I just decided to change it so that I was a brand, a clothing brand, mainly because I wanted it to be where other shops didn't feel threatened. I just wanted it to be where, you know, our ex-competitors can be like, oh, that's just Backbone, the clothing brand that's a BMX clothing brand, and then use all of the hopefully free time, not packing orders and not doing all the other BMX shop stuff to be able to create the community vibe in different locations. So that's what I've been doing. You know, I've been going this year, I've been running events up and down the east coast of Australia and running Act Jam. I came down here in February to run the ACT New South Wales titles, just basically trying to be as many places as I can be to try and bring some cohesiveness to the BMX scene in general, because like Zach said, we've had such a sick scene in Canberra. Everyone's so together, and the culture, I think, of BMX lives kind of in Canberra. And I want to be able to make that vibe Australia-wide, even worldwide, you know, like not necessarily like selling worldwide, although we do, but just have people feel like they can be a part of the same culture and scene and not have it feel so fragmented. So,
and I think like a lot of the people that do support the shop can't make it to Act Jam, you know, like we're living so far away in Queensland or Western Australia, wherever they are. I think like the fact that you're bringing it to them is almost reigniting that little scene, even if it's like, you know, they're an hour away from Newcastle or something like that, they can get to it a bit easier, and there's a local community all of a sudden that's back in, and you bring in the shop to them, like you said, and it's almost like similar to this Act Jam. It's like if you want to be there at those events, it's almost like there was a little bit of a lost art of like jams being thrown a little bit. Like there was the pinnacles, but not enough young kids these days are throwing young jams and doing it for the scene as much as what we used to do. But now you bring it along the East Coast, and there's like a few pit stops along the way means that people can lock it into their calendar and make it to this vibe that you've brought to them, sort of thing.
That's right, man. Like I feel like the vibe and the memory of the events is almost everything. You know, you don't get that online. You know, you don't get it from liking a photo and from watching the video. You get it from being there. And that's why going to all these different places, because you and I both know, because we're from country towns, you kind of just had to do it. You know, I'm sure that you were running, doing stuff in and around the area, and same goes with me when I was living in Broadford. And it's like such an important part of what BMX is getting together and meeting new people in the community. Yeah, exactly. So
because that's forever, you know what I mean? Like I feel like, you know, like these jams are just legacies to the story that whatever part you got into BMX. I feel like I'm so grateful that, you know, I was in this Canberra scene, because it's at my doorstep. But it's like, man, we would travel when we were kids, but now, like, you know, it's you bringing it to a whole nother part of the world, and almost like the brand is able to reach out a little bit bigger and sort of like create this younger community all up the East Coast, instead of it just being in Canberra and like people having to buy online. It's like they get a glimpse of like, oh, that's so cool, I seen Tyson, or that's so cool, I got a Backbone t-shirt at that jam. And it's that part of your storyline, which is, you know, forever. Like I still remember all those little jams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, to take it back to what it is, you know, with if someone was wearing a Backbone shirt, I just want people to feel like that's them feeling like they're a part of the BMX scene, and more so the BMX culture, I guess. Like I try and like divert from saying the word scene, because I feel like scenes are for cool kids, and I just want people to feel like they're a part of the community and the culture of BMX, and if they're wearing Backbone, then hopefully they feel like that.
No doubt. And I just want to touch on briefly I watched the first podcast you guys did together, and Zach, you mentioned about becoming a pro rider with Colony, and that perhaps you found that to be a different style of culture. Is that accurate? Like you were saying you had a great time there, but it ultimately you wanted to come back to more this style of backbone thing? Is that, don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No, I think,
paraphrasing,
like, to sort of talk on that time and like I think every kid wants to be sponsored at some point in their life where they're like, you know, they want to, it's the goal. It's all the kids you look up to. It's all these people that you admire, from videos to photographs in a magazine. You'd see the lens of what their life was like and want to be that. And to even be sponsored by anything, like the shop was and I was like over the moon. Like, just when you get that phone call, that message, it's, dude, you can't explain that sort of call up. And then to extend on that, like, we were lucky with the shop because we had distros and things like that would sort of put out olive branches and sponsor you and stuff like that. And then it would give you a leg into like traveling with teams and things like this. And to fast forward it, like, I got on Colony and I was able to travel a fair bit and stuff like that. And I had like this really cool crew. Like, it was just the early days of this company, and it was the building blocks of like, we're all in it together. We were hungry for it. It was the same as Backbone. It was the same sort of like just that itch to be just around it. And then just years went by. I sort of got injured and just things like it. I would never take back the time I had on Colony or anything like any sponsor. But I think I just sort of realized in myself that what I was doing was more about the arts than it was about it's like today, it's like you're an influencer. You've got to be so media heavy these days. And we come up from the underground where it was like not cool to celebrate being show pony-ish. It was like you're almost trying to not be that, but you let your riding speak for what it was. And then that got you so far to the point where, like, you know, like, I was around some amazing riders with Colony and stuff like that. And I just felt like I wasn't on their level and I just wanted to do me. So, fortunately, like, Backbone never changed. It was always this, like, you know, and especially like that period where we were doing the Backbone DVD, which is like a like top thing in my life, where like that period of BMX was so progressive and sort of we challenged each other. I remember like we were in that scene and B-Dog was filming out the back and he'd show you a clip of Jacko or you or anybody, Russell, riding the track, and you'd be like, man, I'm going out this weekend. And it fed on that. And then, so that's what BMX was for me, because it was more about the arts, where you were going out and documenting something or getting a photo that would capture that thing. And then it would lead onto a premiere that would literally come like, a year later or something like that. But that build up was like the celebration led to like this display, and we had it at the Barton
at Act Jam, at the West Basement thing.
And like, dude, this is honestly like the irony of me being in it, but like, this is honestly one of the best DVDs from start to finish, with some badass dudes that are literally like, from trail riders to park dudes to rail dudes, that just went in for like 2 years. And like that was the pinnacle of where it was with me in Canberra, I think, like, because the shop was, like it had already built this community, and then to be a part of this DVD meant that you not that you had to prove anything, but you wanted to, man. You were hungry to be involved in it, and then to like, you were itching to get clips, and then the whole reveal at the end, dude, it was such a sick thing, because more people need to do more premieres and more filming, and not be like, I'm come from an older crew where this short sample of Instagram is just not fulfilling like what a premiere would be. It's such a spectacle for us.
It's a tough thing that hasn't been replaced, I think. Like the vibe, to go back to it, the vibe and the memory that the premiere makes, not just for the rider that's involved, but Zach's got my favorite part in the video, and I've told him that a bunch of times, but I will never forget the premiere when his song came on and people were singing, like, because it's Never Tear Us Apart by In Excess, and you know, there's like 500 BMXers singing at the top of their lungs while he's like crushing these rails and stuff like that. And that's what you live for, you know, that's the stuff that you'll take to your grave. And can be unfortunate that we're at a stage in not just BMX, but in everything where you think that the quickest, if you can get it out quickly and get those likes, then that'll give you what you need, but you miss that feeling of, creating a real memory that lasts a lot longer. Yeah.
Because I still occasionally get messages from people when they hear the NXS song come on, and then they'll send me a link and be like, dude, like, and it's that moment kind of embodies that time, and the song just captures it kind of. Tyson actually suggested this song, like, and like, I just feel like the vibe is what we always go back to, but like, man, like this at a premiere when there's hundreds of people around that your peers, and just been like singing the song, and that's timeless for me. That's what you do it for, like, and like that just doesn't end, you know, like you could watch this and have a flashback to that day, and you know, like that's what we do.
Yeah.
Recreate. You can't recreate this, you know.
Yeah. The memories definitely last forever when you create something like this. The funny thing, a quick side story about the music. We did a trip for the video pretty early on to Newcastle, and we get there, and it was pretty much all of the riders that are in the video that have main parts were in the van. And I like turned around, it's nighttime, and I said that we want to do an all Australian soundtrack. And everyone pretty much just like, oh, why are we going to do an all Australian soundtrack? That's going to suck. And I just said, because trust me, I think that it's important. We're an Australian BMX shop and we need to have an all Australian soundtrack. And then eventually it all came around, and, you know, we had to do a couple of, like Zach's part. He had like the raw timeline of clips, and I said, dude, I think this is the song. And we just played his clips raw with the song, and then he was like, I think this is going to be pretty cool. And then it ended up the way it was, and there was a couple other dudes that were the same sort of thing. Chris Hardy had Go and a Solid Rock, and I remember he was not into the idea of it until we did the timeline song play, and it worked out a treat. And now, you know, after the video's said and done and we premiered it, I feel like everyone got hyped the fact that we did that, you know.
Oh, dude, like it couldn't have been better. I feel like you foreseen something that we didn't, but I feel like I'm so glad that it's an Australian soundtrack, because it's just so organically us without even trying. It was just a bit pure.
You need to sort of not that we thought that everyone would watch it worldwide, and we were probably really lucky that it was one of the last video. You know, BMX DVDs really took a nosedive after that in terms of like frequency and things like that. And I feel like that video came out at the right time where it was pretty well received internationally. Even I remember going to the Vans Pro Cup and riding and seeing Kevin Peraza, and he was like, "Oh, that's Zac Miner." You know, like Kevin Peraza, like multiple X Games gold medalist, and he's like, "Oh, I love that dude's riding."
That's so good.
Which is such a cool.
That DVD was just such a, I don't know, like it was an important part of BMX wholly, but I think like for us, it was, you know, like it solidified something that we'd been working on for like forever, and it just meant like, what I mean by that is that we were all such badasses, and we all had our moments, but that video was just this whole hour-long display of just some cool shit that went down across Canberra and everywhere, because like these dudes are just pretty casual people. Like half the people in that DVD work a 9 to 5 and then, you know, go and ride these setups and send it, and then they sort of like just the best dudes outside of BMX, but like just to see what they can do in that thing and then put it in a DVD together. And we all kind of like that pinnacle of the premiere, like just made it all worth it, you know?
You can literally be lying awake at night for like a year thinking about this thing that you're going to do and completely convince yourself that you can fully do it. But
yeah, everything was always calculated too, because you kind of like years of crashing would make you realize that you could do it too. Like you'd either overcome something or you just
find a way out of it.
Yeah, it was a calculated risk. Everything was like so thought out, especially when you're filming big stuff. But you just don't account for the crashes. Like you obviously do, because I remember like rocking up to rails and stuff like that, or anything that I'm trying to film. And the first thing that you got to work backwards. Like if I crash, how the fuck do I get out of it? Like what's worst case scenario? Okay, don't do that kind of thing. And then you work and you just bringing it back to like, all right, I've got to lean this way, so I don't do that sort of thing. But like that last one with me, like I was saying, there's not too often that I don't get my hands down. Like it kind of like you can kind of tumble roll and get your hands out of the way. But this was just 2 seconds, my face was on the ground. And I'm like, and that's the scary part about BMX. I think like for so often for all of us, it's like you can't watch it, man. Like I can't watch people eat shit like that because it's just so triggering for like how we've come up and stuff. But
that I just got a bit of a funny story about my clip. So or at least this is funny to me. Zach was saying earlier that he thinks, that we moved here, killing it and stuff like that. I actually don't think that I'm a very good rider, and I feel like when I moved to Canberra, a lot of people essentially I got so inspired and was around all these riders. Like I met Zach, and I was living at a guy named Cam White's house. He's actually a professional BMX rider from Canberra, badass dude. I was living at his house.
Dirt Jam.
That's right. Yeah. And I wasn't really riding like to this like crazy level. And Zach came over, and I just learnt front flips into the foam pit, and he was like, "Oh, how do you do those?" And I was like, "Oh, you got to do this and this." And then he like does it in pretty much first go, and then does like a front flip turn down into the foam. And he was like, "Oh, that's sick. I've got to go back to Deniliquin now and do a show or something like that." You have to do the Deniliquin show. And sure enough, like I see this footage that's not on a phone. It was, some random like mob file or something. And it's him doing a front flip and trying a front flip turn down at the Denny show. And it's just, that's like Zach, he talks himself.
I thought you were going to talk about the very next day after the Denny show, we went to the Denny skate park and I tried to do a front flip as well. And my knees hit the bars and you couldn't swan dive any better. Like I fell from so high just to my neck. And that went on. I got more likes on MySpace than it.
Yeah, I remember your
clip.
MySpace. Yeah, your MySpace. That's what it was. Yeah. But that was sort of I digress. But the footage of my last trick in the backbone video, I just wanted to do something that I knew that no one could replicate, and that's why I put a landing because I was like, well, if someone wants to try and replicate my trick, they've got to build a landing and put it at the skate park. Because I knew I wasn't good enough to be like, oh, I can go do like X trick at some spot, that existed already. So I just was like, what's something I could do? Oh, I could put the box landing on the other side of the bowl. Oh, what if I tail whipped it? And then once I said, what if I tail whipped it? I just thought about tail whipping it for like a year. I'd be shaking in bed at night and my wife would be like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm just thinking about a trick I want to try. And didn't work out.
The one that got away.
Yeah, the story,
Fuck.
At least I don't have to go back to Western Creek Skate Park and look at a landing and say, oh, what if?
It's not there.
Yeah, we burnt that landing just after that.
Yeah. So helmets save lives, kids.
Yeah, it's not. How are the bodies now? Like you're still both riding.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely suffer from post-concussion
Dementia.
dementia, CTE. Yeah, I've had like a couple of skull fractures and bleeding brains and broken just about every bone that you could imagine, some of them a few times. But you just, whatever, like you just want to ride.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, I don't think the body's the same as when we're in our 20s, but that doesn't stop you thinking about spots. Like I have that like disease of driving around Canberra and looking at ridiculous spots that is impossible, but in my head it is. And to like turn that off is the hardest bit, because I'm like, man, my body hates me already. Like, don't do it. But,
yeah. I have that same disease, but then I just call Zach and tell him the spot that I saw. I don't think about him for me. I just think about him for Zach.
Yeah. But no, I feel like we're supposed. It's forever, man. I feel like you can't come this far. It's a skill that you've attained, and you can't give it up. It's just a drug. It's like my church. I go on the weekend and I get my fix. It's my, it's my therapist. It's my everything. And I find that if I'm not riding, my world sort of kind of starts to fracture a bit. So. I don't think I'll ever not do it. It's just more it's a bit more chill these days. And like, obviously I don't ride the big trails like these boys, but so it's still fun. Like I find that like even just cruising around and riding a bowl fills that bucket for me still. So
yeah, it's funny what we were the whole injury thing. Like you can't really escape it, and I think that it's better to have, I've said a lot of cliche things, but I feel like what else are you going to do? You're not going to sit around and just wait for old age. You may as well see how far you can push it. It sounds really cliche, but that's like, I love the feeling of doing stuff that I didn't think I could do. And that comes incrementally. It's not like you're this crazy daredevil that jumps on a bike and day one goes, oh, I'm going to send it. But you are always thinking, and that's, it never leaves you. It's just now you kind of weigh it up a bit more. And luckily, I think that, like what you said with cruising a bowl, it comes down to the feeling way more now. Like it's not like you need to have this trick under your belt to say that you're a good rider. You just more enjoy the feeling of, landing smooth and enjoying the way that your bike feels underneath you.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's, that itch. I'm so glad you've moved away, because now I don't send it as much because you're not around.
It's all for me. Yeah, probably because I'm like, oh, Zach, do that again.
Yeah, my body. But dude, I find that like I'm loving that like this is the next generation of kids coming up too, and old heads are coming back out of the woodwork, where there's like dads that have used to ride BMX or whatever, and then like now they're getting the itch because their kids are getting into it again and stuff like that. So like there's this next generation, there's this second coming of BMXers that are coming back, and so like there's almost a reason to go out again and just be a part of the community. So like this weekend and everything that's sort of happened leading up to now has always been this like recycled BMXing crew that's so solid in Canberra. Like there's just a scene and it's never died. So
yeah, and I think that's just to bring it back to Act Jam. That's one of the things that I love about Act Jam is that even though yes, Logan Martin comes and yes, R. Willie comes and whatnot, but it's these underground rippers that no one knows about. Who literally just got off work early so they can make it to the Friday, and then they go and do like the wildest stuff. That's what's important to me in terms of showcasing BMX for what it is. By BMXs for BMXs. A lot of it comes down to the fact that Australia in general is a bunch of these underground rippers that no one really knows about because they don't have a social media following. Someone like Will Gunn, for example, is like, people talk about him having the keys to so many cities, so many towns in Australia because he goes there and just shuts it down.
Yeah, local.
And, he's just a carpenter that rides like a badass.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible to do a video like that in this day and age without the physical media? And is it something Backbone would ever do again, another feature like this? Or is it just it's too hard to get lost in? Because now it's basically just upload to YouTube, right? Like,
yeah, I wouldn't say that it's too hard. It certainly would be a massive challenge. The thing that I would say that would stop it from getting lost is, at the time, yes, social media was around when the video got premiered, but there was a lot to do with just in general, just keeping clips secret so that people didn't know that this went down at this spot and whatnot. And the Backbone video came out at a really good time where maybe Australian BMX wasn't showcased quite as heavily as what the Backbone video showcased. And to do it these days where riding is so showcased on, I could open up my phone and watch 10 of the gnarliest clips ever. And then tomorrow I could watch the next 10 gnarliest clips. And what I would personally love to do, but it would just take the right documenter to be able to do it over a long period of time, is to do like more of a documentary series where, like I said, Zac's roofing and then he'll go and do it over ice down like a 20 stair, So that would be something where you can celebrate the personality of the rider. I think that's the right type of video that would need to come out for me personally, just because celebrating the person and what goes into them even hopping on a bike, let alone being a badass, is what is something that means a lot to me. And whether or not that would mean a lot to everyone else, I'm not sure, but it would be really cool to document. And I think that would be something that would hold weight for a lot longer. But in terms of logistically, we were really lucky that our good friend Brendan Boeck, he was actually working at the shop, and Riss basically said, if you go out, I'll pay you for every week if you film a clip. And then when it came to editing the video, he got paid 6 months to edit the video. And just because it was lucky that he was working at the shop doing other work, so like logistically it worked out.
This was the overarching creator of the video.
Yeah, so that's
and
beat
the
up.
filmer. Yeah, was working at the shop and would get sent out on a mission and get paid for it. Basically.
Like on the weekends.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he would. There'd be, because there's like 10 dudes chomping his ear off saying, "Oh, I want to film this, I want to film that," and if he went and did it, then
that's so good.
Granted, he probably didn't get paid like what he was worth, but at the same time, that's just how it got done, and you kind of need that. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that it takes a long time. Like we filmed for 2 years, but there's clips that are 4 years old, and then it took him, close to 6 months or so to edit that video.
That's so crazy. It's amazing video.
But yeah, so you just need someone who can dedicate that sort of time, because at the end of the day, like, he has to do all the editing, and all the cool stuff that people see on the video comes from the writers, and they don't really get to acknowledge the filmer and edit it as much. So
young sung heroes.
The young sung hero. Yeah, that's right.
No, amazing. And it still holds up today, the whole video. So definitely go check it out because it's a ripper. I want to touch on one final thing, is the and another aspect of the whole community and what has been done so well in Canberra is the digging, like the trail building that you guys have done, and the work you've put in to build these spots. And you've had a few occasions it's made the papers, like they're getting destroyed. What's the current state of Canberra's, off-piste trails that aren't the Stromlos and the ones beside skate parks and stuff? Like, what's the current state of it? And you've been like heavily involved in those conversations with the government and the importance of that. I watched the episode with the researcher that was doing research into the value of that and building and that community and getting outside. So yeah, what's the current state of Canberra? Even though you're kind of away from it now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely banging trail spots that aren't public, and I think there always will be. And yeah, when, like what Zach said earlier, they are world-renowned spots. You know, if you go and watch, there's another video that is called S&M Aussie Rules, and the S&M Bikes team is one of the most world-renowned, probably the most popular BMX brand to have existed. And they sent riders over to Australia, and, you know, they came to ride Canberra and obviously came to ACJAM and things like that as well. But the trails are all through that video. So they're as legit as it gets. But, yeah, there's always
part of this video it is, but
yeah,
this is
a little bit further on. But the, yeah, trails are always going to exist. The dudes, you know, the DIY ethic, Risty and Russell Brindley, two guys that have always like had a shovel in their hand, and to be honest, that's two guys that have influenced me in wanting to, you know, build trails all the time. That's where they are right there. Yeah, so that's in Canberra. But you know, hopefully when people see this sort of stuff, it inspires them to dig more. It's a double-edged sword. You know, I was building some jumps that were, I guess, illegal in Canberra, and that's what ultimately got the new Stromlo jumps that ACJAM is going to be on built, because there was literally a sign up on stapled to a tree that said, whoever has these jumps, you'll be fined. You'll, you know, have to remediate the land by a certain date. And normally you would just walk away from that and be like, oh, well, I guess another spot down. But because I'm president of FAC BMX Club, I decided I'd put my president hat on and ring the number and you know, go through that thing, and got the jumps done at Hillfire. But it's obviously an awesome asset for riders to be able to go to a public spot, but part of what makes the BMX culture so cool is the counterculture of building stuff where it may disappear. You know, Zach's played hands in building DIY concrete setups that you would not believe that lasted only. There I am. You know, there's stuff that lasts only a matter of weeks sometimes, but you do it because you love it, and you don't think about it being the part of the culture, but it is just ingrained in you as a BMX rider. And I think, not to throw shade at, you know, the mountain bike scene in Canberra, but that is something that if people just thought, I'm going to go out and build my own jumps, then they would understand that's a big part of what makes a culture so special, is when you can go and do something with the threat of it not existing tomorrow. And Canberra will always, as long as there's BMXs in Canberra, there'll always be jumps getting built.
Yeah.
And we're lucky, you know, the boys are holding down a spot that's a couple of decades old now, but
it's so important because it like democratizes it. Like anyone can go and do it, and not the people with the connections with the government who want, even though it's a community, that's their type of jump. So, you know, it's important that people are allowed to do what they want in public spaces. To obviously a certain extent, but
totally,
it's definitely important.
I mean, it's the essence of BMX, I would say, is that the first thing that you do when you're a little kid is you try and kick some dirt, you know, into a pile so you can jump it, and then it just goes from there. And yeah, I think that the legitimate side of building jumps, and whether they are demolished by councils or governments, I think that is sort of changing. It even seems that there's, policies and stuff that are starting to be put in place so that kids don't get their jumps dozed, because it's so important. But yeah, I just love seeing people obviously not do illegal stuff, but the building of jumps is just so important to foster that I can do this myself. All I need is a shovel and some wet dirt, and I can make it happen. And I think that BMX teaches you that. So whether or not it's just the landscape of Canberra that allows you to build really good ones, I don't know. But yeah, it seems to happen a lot in Canberra. So
oh, hopefully it lives on, and I'm sure Backbone's presence here will live on as well. But that's we've been chatting for a while, lads. Is there anything else you want to mention or talk about? But amazing chat. So yeah, thank you so much for
just get down this weekend.
Yeah, just make sure you get
down.
Or it's probably going to be past by the time you hear this. So
no, we'll get this out on early Thursday.
Oh, sick.
So we'll try and put out a clip and hype it up because it's definitely worth a visit to anyone, even if you're not interested in BMX. It's a great show. But thank you guys for popping in and taking a minute.
Awesome. Yeah, no worries, man. Nick.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.